In our last lesson, we learned about direct objects, and those were the nouns or pronouns, the people or things that were directly affected by the action. So if I said, I threw the ball, I is the subject, threw is the verb, and ball is the direct object because it is the thing that is being thrown. So it is directly affected by the action. Today we're going to talk about indirect objects, which likewise are indirectly affected by the action. So it's going to tell us to whom or to what, the action is happening. And so that will add to it. So it's the action of a transitive verb, and we talked about transitive verbs back in Unit 1. You cannot have an indirect object unless there is a direct object in the sentence. You can have direct objects without an indirect object, though, and we'll take a look at some of those sentences. So an example, Natalie knitted her friend a sweater. Natalie is our subject, knitted is the verb. What did Natalie knit? Well, she knitted a sweater, so that's the direct object. For whom did she knit a sweater? Her friend. So friend is the indirect object. You couldn't just say Natalie knitted her friend without having the direct object here, or it makes the sentence say something very different. She's knitting her friend instead of a sweater. So my little sister sang me a song. My little sister is the subject, sang is the verb. What did she sing? She sang a song. For whom did she sing it? She sang it for me. So me is the indirect object. The song is the direct object. The song is directly affected by the action. It's the thing that is being sung. Me is indirectly affected by the verb, because I am not actually being sung, but I am being sung to. So indirectly affected. Uncle Gene sends whoever requests it a pamphlet on earthworms. The direct object would be pamphlet. That's what Uncle Gene is sending. To whom is he sending it? Whoever requests it. So that is your indirect object. That's a word group instead of just a single noun or a pronoun. So I don't think I gave you any of those in the homework. If the word is used... Sorry, let me start that over. If the word to or for is actually used in the sentence, then the noun or pronoun following it is not a direct object anymore. It's actually part of a prepositional phrase. So you want to ask yourself for whom, for what, to what, and the answer is the indirect object. But if the sentence actually says to that person or for that thing, then it's a prepositional phrase. For example, my teacher showed the bird's nest to the class. To the class right here is a prepositional phrase. So my teacher showed what? The nest, that's our direct object. But because when we say to whom, it actually says to right here. To the class is a prepositional phrase, and I would normally tell you just to cross that out. I left some dessert for you. I left what? Dessert, so that's our direct object. For you is a prepositional phrase, so there is no indirect object. So what would that look like if we wrote these sentences and made those prepositional phrases direct objects? Well, the teacher showed the class the bird's nest. Again, the teacher showed what? The nest is still our direct object. To whom did she show it? The class. But she didn't have to say to the class like we had up here in sentence number 1. We just said showed the class. So often you insert the indirect object between the verb and the direct object without a preposition. I left you some dessert. I left what? I left dessert. For whom? For you. But the sentence doesn't actually say for you. It just says you. And that's how you turn a prepositional phrase into an indirect object. They also can be compound, just like we had compound subjects and we had compound verbs. Lydia sold cookies and lemonade. Lydia sold what? Cookies and lemonade. Those are both direct objects. On the second sentence, Lydia sold Geraldo, Freddie, and me lemonade. Lydia sold what? Well, she's still selling lemonade. To whom is she selling it? Geraldo, Freddie, and me. So we have a compound indirect object in that sentence. Sometimes something that sounds like it would be a direct object or an indirect object is actually just an adverb. So in this first sentence, go inside Skippy. Remember that Skippy here is just a form of address. It is not the subject. I could actually just take that off and just say go inside. When we have a command or a request like that, remember that your subject is an understood you. Even though the sentence doesn't say that, you know it's the person to whom I'm speaking. So our subject is you, the verb is go. Inside is an adverb telling us where to go. So it is not a direct object. Remember that a direct object has to be a noun or a pronoun, and in this case, inside is not a noun or a pronoun. However, in the second sentence, Tamisha sanded the inside of the wooden chest. Tamisha sanded what? The inside, and that is now a thing. That is a noun. This is a direct object. This one is an adverb. This one is a direct object. This one is telling us where to go. This one is telling us what Tamisha sanded. So let's take a look at a couple of sentences here. In one myth, the famous artist and inventor Daedalus built the king of Crete a mysterious building known as the Labyrinth. So remember, we always want to get rid of our prepositional phrases first, so we would get rid of in one myth. We would also get rid of as the labyrinth. Go ahead and cross those out, and we would also get rid of Crete. Who or what are we talking about? Well, we're talking about Daedalus, so he's the subject. The verb is built. Daedalus built what? Well, he built a building, so that's our direct object. For whom did he build it? He built it for the king, so that is our indirect object. In the second sentence, the complicated passageways of this building give us the word labyrinth, a maze or confusing structure. Again, get rid of your prepositional phrases, so we would get rid of this building. Our subject is passageways. Our verb is give. Passageways give what? Well, they give us word, right? Word labyrinth. And then give to whom, it gives it to us. So let's look at how we would diagram that. We already put our subject, verb, and direct object here. That's what we did in our last lesson. The thing that is new is where you put the indirect object. And so the indirect object usually goes off the verb here because the verb is happening for or to that thing or person. And you just drop a little line down and then put it on that line. Make a little slanty line connecting it. So in that first sentence, we said Daedalus was our subject, built is our verb, building is the direct object. For whom did he build it? The king. And so we just drop it down there like that. In the second one, we said passageways was our subject, give is the verb, word is direct object, and then to whom did they give the word? Us. And so we just drop it down like that. If you have any questions, be sure to ask me. Otherwise, good luck on the homework.